widowed billionaire brought his wheelchair-bound son to the restaurant to test. His reaction changed everything. Michael Anderson felt the weight of suspicion growing heavier each day. Since losing his wife 3 years ago, finding someone genuine to care for his son had become nearly impossible. The businessman carefully pushed the wheelchair of Nathan, his 15-year-old son, toward the entrance of Hope Bistro, an elegant restaurant in the Upper East Side of New York City. It was the 5th time in 2 months he had done this. 4 previous candidates had failed the secret test he had devised. This time, he would observe every reaction of Emily Wilson, the young manager who had impressed him during their interview the week before. "Good evening, Mr. Anderson," Emily said with a warm smile as she saw them arrive. "So glad you could make it." Nathan looked up and smiled shyly. The boy always grew nervous in new places, especially when he noticed people staring. Michael noted that Emily didn't look away or show any discomfort. "Your table is ready," she continued, walking beside Nathan's wheelchair. "Hi, Nathan. Your dad told me you love lasagna. We have a special today that I think you'll love." The teenager visibly relaxed. It was rare for someone to address him directly rather than talk about him as if he weren't there. Michael made a mental note, but kept his guard up. He'd been deceived before. The strategically chosen table was in an area with easy wheelchair access, neither hidden nor isolated from other guests. Emily helped position Nathan naturally, asking if he was comfortable. "Can I bring an extra armrest for you?" she offered. "My cousin also uses a wheelchair and always complains when restaurants don't think about comfort." Michael raised an eyebrow. During the interview, Emily hadn't mentioned having a disabled relative. Was it true or just a ploy to gain sympathy? "Thanks," Nathan replied, more at ease now. "You have a cousin. How old is he?" "Had," Emily corrected, and Michael noticed a shadow cross her face. "He isn't with us anymore, but he taught me a lot about making places more accessible." The vague answer heightened Michael's suspicions. Why wouldn't she give details? Nathan, however, seemed to sense it was a delicate subject and changed the topic. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. As Emily stepped away to fetch the menus, Michael leaned toward his son. "What do you think of her?" he whispered. "She seems nice, Dad." "Didn't talk to me like I was a kid," Nathan replied. "But why are you so tense? I thought we were just having dinner." Michael felt guilty. He'd been so obvious in his scrutiny that even his son noticed. He decided to relax a little but remained watchful of Emily's every move. She returned with menus and a small cushion. "Thought this might help," she said, placing it behind Nathan's back. "Makes it easier to read the menu." The simple yet thoughtful gesture struck Michael. It was exactly the kind of care his wife used to provide. Sarah had always noticed the little things that made Nathan more comfortable. "Do you like the cushion, Nathan?" Emily asked. "Thank you. My mom always did this," the boy said, and Michael's heart clenched. "She must have been very special," Emily remarked gently. "She was," Nathan corrected sadly. "She isn't here anymore." An awkward silence settled over them. Michael watched Emily process the information, clearly surprised she hadn't been told he was a widower. "I'm so sorry," she said with evident sincerity. "I'm sure she'd be proud seeing how well the two of you take care of each other." The response was perfect, neither overly emotional nor inappropriately casual. Michael began to lower his guard slightly but forced himself to remain skeptical. This was how the other candidates had started too. During the order, Emily showed patience when Nathan took his time deciding, offering suggestions without pressure and noting specific preferences like no onions and sauce on the side. When the boy accidentally dropped his napkin, she picked it up naturally without making a fuss. "Happens to me all the time," she joked. "My mom always says I have 2 left hands." Nathan laughed, and Michael felt something loosen in his chest. It had been a while since he'd seen his son so comfortable with a stranger. The food arrived, and everything was going smoothly until the first real, unintentional test happened. Nathan tried to reach for the salt shaker and knocked over his water glass, soaking the table and part of his clothes. "Oh, shoot!" the boy exclaimed, clearly embarrassed. Michael quickly stood to help, but Emily was already in motion. Without showing irritation or rushing, she brought clean dish towels and began drying the table. "Relax, Nathan. Last week, a very important client spilled red wine on a white tablecloth," she said as she worked. "Turned red as a beet. At least water dries easy." Nathan laughed nervously but still looked upset. "Sorry, I always do this," he mumbled. "Nonsense," Emily said firmly. "You know what? Once I was serving a VIP table, all nervous, and I spilled an entire bowl of soup on a famous businessman's lap. Almost lost my job." "Really?" Nathan asked, intrigued. "Swear. He got so mad he yelled at me in front of everyone. But you know what I learned? Accidents happen. What matters is how we handle them." Michael watched the exchange with growing interest. Emily had turned his son's embarrassment into a life lesson without sounding preachy. It was exactly what Sarah would have done. "Do you want to change shirts?" she offered Nathan. "I have a clean one in the back that might work for now." "No need," Michael cut in. "He's fine as is." Emily nodded, respecting the decision, but Nathan protested. "Actually, Dad, I'm kinda wet. It might be nice to change." Michael hesitated. Letting a restaurant employee help his son with clothes was a level of intimacy he wasn't ready to accept. "I can help you in the restroom," Michael suggested. "Dad, I can change by myself," Nathan said, a hint of irritation in his voice. "And Emily's just being nice." The tension between father and son was clear. Michael realized he was being overprotective again, something Sarah had always criticized when she was alive. "I'm sorry," Emily said quickly. "Didn't mean to cause any trouble. It was just a suggestion." "It's no trouble," Nathan assured her, shooting his dad a disapproving look. "I'd love to change shirts." Michael found himself in a dilemma. Giving in meant trusting Emily more than he was ready to. Refusing meant disappointing his son and seeming paranoid. "All right," he finally agreed. "But I'm coming with you." "Of course," Emily said naturally. "The staff room is right over there. Do you want me to bring the shirt, or would you rather go there?" Nathan chose to go to the staff room. As Michael pushed the chair, he noticed Emily explaining the way and mentioning there was an access ramp in the back of the restaurant. "How do you know about the ramp?" Michael asked. "I suggested it when I started working here," she explained. "The former manager didn't see the need, but I managed to convince the owner by showing how many potential customers we were missing." The response impressed Michael. It showed initiative and genuine social awareness, not just superficial sympathy. In the dressing room, Emily brought a simple but clean blue blouse. "I think this will work well," she told Nathan. "Is this comfortable for you, Mr. Anderson? I can wait outside while you two get settled." "You can stay," said Nathan. "It doesn't bother me." Michael was about to protest when he realized his son was right. Nathan was being treated normally, not like a fragile person who needed special privacy. As he helped his son change shirts, Michael discreetly observed Emily. She didn't stare or seem uncomfortable. She simply checked if the blouse fit and offered help when needed without insisting. "It looks perfect," she remarked when Nathan put on the new shirt. "And blue suits you." The boy smiled widely, clearly flattered by the compliment. Back at the table, the conversation flowed naturally. Emily asked about Nathan's hobbies, showed genuine interest when he talked about his favorite computer games, and even shared some funny stories from the restaurant. "Last week, a couple came in asking for a romantic table," she said. "I set everything up. Candles, rose petals, soft music. Then I found out they came to break up." Can you imagine the awkwardness? Nathan and Michael laughed together, and the businessman felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Genuine relaxation. For a few minutes, he forgot this was a test. That's when he heard the first sour note of the evening. "She's trying too hard," whispered one employee to another at the next table. "I bet she found out who he is. Everyone knows Michael Anderson is worth billions." The comment hit Michael like a punch to the gut. Had Emily known about his fortune from the start? Was all that kindness just an elaborate act? He watched Emily's face and saw she had heard the comment too. Her expression changed subtly. A shadow of sadness or disappointment crossed her eyes. "Excuse me," she said, standing up. "I'll check on your dessert." but Michael noticed her hands trembled slightly as she picked up the empty tray from the table. Nathan, oblivious to the growing tension, kept happily eating his lasagna. "She's nice, Dad," he said between bites. "Much better than those other weird women you brought to dinner." His son's remark confirmed Michael's worst fears. Nathan had noticed the other dinners weren't casual. The boy knew he was being used as part of some kind of test. "What are you talking about?" Michael asked, trying to sound casual. "Dad, I'm not stupid," Nathan said with a sigh. "You've been bringing different women to dinner with me for months. They all pretended to like me, but you could tell it was forced. Emily is different." Michael felt exposed and ashamed. He had underestimated his son's perception and, worse, had failed to protect him from the awkwardness of those tests. "Nathan, You're looking for a governess, right?" the boy interrupted. "Or someone to take care of me when you travel for work?" The maturity in his son's voice surprised Michael. Nathan not only knew what was happening, but seemed to understand the practical needs of the situation. "How did you know?" "How did you—" "Dad, the housekeeper you hired last month told me. She said you were interviewing candidates for a special position in the family." Michael made a mental note to fire the indiscreet housekeeper, but Nathan kept talking. "I like Emily. She doesn't pretend I'm too special or too pitiful. She treats me like a normal person." At that moment, Emily returned with a small chocolate cake. "Compliments of the house," she said, but Michael noticed her earlier cheerfulness had faded. "I hope you like it." "Emily," Nathan suddenly said, "do you know who my dad is?" The direct question caught both Michael and Emily off guard. "Nathan!" Michael scolded. "No, Dad, I want to know," the boy insisted, staring intently at Emily. "Do you know who he is?" Emily hesitated for a moment, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. "I know your father is Mr. Michael Anderson," she replied carefully, "a very respected businessman." "And did you know that when you met us?" Nathan pressed. Michael held his breath. Emily's answer would determine whether the test continued or another candidate was dismissed. "When you arrived tonight, one of the staff told me who you were," she admitted honestly. "Before that, I didn't know." "And did that change how you treated us?" Nathan asked. Emily looked directly into the boy's eyes. "No," she said firmly. "You're people, not bank accounts. To me, what matters is how you treat others and how you deserve to be treated in return." The answer satisfied Nathan, who smiled again, but Michael remained skeptical. It was easy to say the right words when being tested. "Emily," Michael said abruptly, "could you bring me the check, please?" "Of course," she replied, though she seemed confused by the sudden end to the dinner. As she walked away, Nathan confronted his father. "Why did you do that? We were having fun." "Nathan, you're still a child. You don't understand how people can be fake when they know we have money. And you think everyone who's nice to us is pretending?" the boy asked, frustrated. Michael didn't know how to answer. The truth was, yes, he distrusted almost everyone since becoming a widower and extremely wealthy. Emily returned with the check, her expression professional but distant. "It was a pleasure meeting you," she said politely. "I hope you enjoyed the experience." Michael signed the receipt and left a generous but appropriate tip. He didn't want to seem like he was trying to impress or being stingy. "Thank you for everything," Nathan said sincerely. "You were really nice to me." "Thank you, Nathan. You're very special too," Emily replied with a genuine smile. As they were leaving, Michael overheard Emily on the phone at the counter. She thought he couldn't hear, but her voice carried clearly to where he waited for Nathan to say goodbye to a waiter. "Mom, I don't know if I can keep pretending everything's okay," she said, her voice trembling. "I desperately need this extra job, but it's humiliating." Michael paused, forcing himself to listen further. "No, it's not their fault," Emily continued. "They're good people. It's just, I can't help thinking about Ethan when I see Nathan, and it hurts so much, Mom." The mention of a man's name piqued Michael's curiosity. Who was Ethan? A boyfriend? The cousin she'd mentioned? "I know I need the money for your knee treatment," she went on, "but I don't know if I can do this again if they call me back." The conversation was interrupted when Nathan approached, ready to leave. Michael pretended he hadn't heard anything, but his mind raced with questions. In the car on the way home, Nathan was unusually quiet. "You didn't like Emily?" Michael asked. "I liked her a lot," the boy replied. "That's why I'm upset." "Upset about what?" "Dad, are you going to do what you did with all the others? Make up an excuse not to hire her?" The question hit Michael hard. Nathan had recognized his pattern of behavior and was clearly frustrated with him. "Nathan, my job is to protect you. I need to be sure the people around us are genuine." "And how will you be sure if you never trust anyone?" the boy replied with a maturity that surprised Michael. The observation left the businessman speechless. Nathan was right. He had become so paranoid that he was pushing away potentially good people out of fear of being deceived. "Emily was the only one who didn't pity me," Nathan continued. "She didn't talk slower thinking I'm dumb. She didn't avoid looking at me. She was just normal." Michael recognized the truth in his son's words. Emily had treated Nathan with the perfect balance of care and normalcy. "But you heard what the employee said," Michael argued, "about her trying too hard because she knows who we are." "So what?" Nathan asked. "Everyone tries harder at work when they have a chance to impress the boss. That doesn't mean she's pretending to like me." Once again, the teenager's wisdom outweighed the adult's paranoia. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. At home, Michael couldn't stop thinking about the phone conversation he had overheard. Who was Ethan? Why had Emily mentioned medical treatment for her mother? And why did she desperately need extra work? His curiosity overpowered his better judgment, and he decided to investigate. Using his company's resources, he uncovered some basic information about Emily Wilson. She was 28, had a degree in hospitality management, had worked at Hope Bistro for 2 years, and had a spotless professional record. But what caught his attention most was a mention in her resume about volunteer work at a rehabilitation center for people with disabilities. The center was called the Ethan Henry Institute for Specialized Therapies. Michael felt his heart race. Ethan wasn't a boyfriend or relative of Emily's. It was the name of the institute where she volunteered. That would explain her ease in handling Nathan and her knowledge of accessibility. Driven by a mix of curiosity and guilt, Michael decided to dig deeper. The next day he drove to the institute. The place was simple but well organized, with ramps, handrails, and proper signage. At the reception, a gray-haired woman greeted him kindly. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I'm interested in learning about your work," Michael said. "I have a teenage son with special needs." "How wonderful," the receptionist exclaimed. "Let me call our coordinator to speak with you." As he waited, Michael observed the institute's activity. There were children and teens in wheelchairs, some with crutches, others with various disabilities. Everyone seemed happy and engaged in their activities. "You must be the father who called yesterday," a voice said behind him. Michael turned and saw a woman around 50, with dark hair and a warm smile that vaguely reminded him of Emily's. "Actually, I didn't call," Michael corrected. "I came by recommendation. Do you know Emily Wilson?" The woman's face lit up. "Emily is my daughter," she exclaimed proudly. "She's been volunteering here for over 5 years. She's one of our best recreational therapists." Michael felt as if he'd been struck by lightning. Emily's mother worked at the institute. That explained both her daughter's knowledge about disabilities and the phone conversation about medical treatment. "Your daughter is very special," Michael said sincerely. "I met her yesterday and was impressed by how naturally she interacted with my son." "Emily has always had that gift," her mother said affectionately. "Ever since she was little, she was drawn to the children others avoided. When she started working here, it was like she'd found her calling." "And the name of the institute, Ethan Henry?" asked Michael. The woman's smile turned wistful. "Ethan was my youngest son, Olivia's brother. He had cerebral palsy," she explained. "Unfortunately, health complications took him 3 years ago. Olivia created this institute in his memory." The pieces of the puzzle fell into place in Michael's mind. The cousin Olivia had mentioned was actually her brother. She'd lost Ethan the same way Nathan had lost his mother, but Nathan was still alive. still had a future ahead. "I'm so sorry for your loss," Michael said sincerely. "Thank you," replied Olivia's mother. "Ethan was a special boy. He always said he wanted to help other kids like him when he grew up. Olivia is fulfilling that dream for him. May I ask about the medical treatment your daughter mentioned?" Michael ventured. The woman seemed surprised by the question but answered openly, "I have severe arthritis in my knees. Olivia is paying for my private physical therapy because the public system has a very long waiting list," she explained. "She works at the restaurant at night and here in the mornings, plus some extra weekend jobs. That girl works herself to the bone to take care of me." Guilt hit Michael like an avalanche. Olivia wasn't pretending to care about Nathan for money. She genuinely cared about people with disabilities, and her need for extra work wasn't greed but filial love. "Is she here today?" asked Michael. "She's in the occupational therapy room with a group of teenagers," replied her mother. "Would you like to see our work?" Michael followed to the indicated room and paused at the door, watching through the glass. Olivia was sitting on the floor with 5 teenagers, all with different disabilities. She had a guitar in her lap and was teaching simple chords. One of the boys, who had Down syndrome, was clearly frustrated at not being able to position his fingers right. "I can't do it," he said irritably. "Of course you can, Tyler," Olivia encouraged patiently. "Remember what we always say here. Everyone moves at their own pace. Let's try a different way." She helped the boy position his hand differently, adapted to his limitations. "See? Now play it slowly," she instructed. When Tyler managed to produce a clean chord, his face lit up with joy. Olivia congratulated him as if he'd just won a prize. In that moment, Michael fully understood who Olivia really was. Not an opportunist pretending kindness, but someone who turned her pain into purpose. "She's special, isn't she?" "Isn't," said Olivia's mother, appearing beside him. "Very," agreed Michael. "Can I speak with her?" "Of course, the session's almost over." When Olivia saw Michael at the door, her face showed genuine surprise. "Mr. Anderson," she said, standing. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you," said Michael. "It's about last night." Olivia seemed to brace for bad news. "Of course," she said, dismissing the group with warm instructions for each. They moved to a small room reserved for private conversations. Michael noticed Olivia seemed nervous but not defensive. "First, I want to apologize," Michael began. "Last night, you and Nathan were put through a test neither of you knew was happening." Olivia blinked in confusion. "A test?" "I'm looking for someone to care for Nathan when I travel for work," Michael explained. "I've been testing several candidates, taking them to dinner with us to see how they respond to him." Emily's face went through several expressions: surprise, understanding, and finally, deep sadness. "I see," she said quietly. "So, did I pass or fail the test?" The simple question hit Michael like a punch. Emily wasn't angry about being deceived. She was genuinely worried about having disappointed Nathan. "You passed with flying colors," Michael admitted. "But I found out things about you that changed everything." "What?" she asked, looking concerned. "About your brother Ethan, about your mother, about your double life between the restaurant and this institute," Michael said. "About the fact that you're not a job candidate but an extraordinary person I don't deserve to have in my son's life." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. "Mr. Anderson?" "Michael," he corrected. "And I want to make a different proposal." "What kind of proposal?" "I don't want to hire you as an employee," Michael said. "I want to support your work here at the Institute. I want Nathan to be part of the regular activities, and I want to learn from you how to be a better father to him." Emily was silent for a long moment. "Why are you doing this?" she finally asked. "Because last night, for the first time in 3 years, I saw my son truly happy," Michael admitted. "And I realized my paranoia was robbing him of the chance to have genuine people in his life." "What about the extra work I need?" Emily asked practically. "How about you organize weekend programs here at the Institute for families like ours?" Michael suggested. "I can guarantee you'd be well compensated and you'd be doing what you love." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "You'd do that? Even without really knowing me?" Emily, in one night, you taught my son more about self-worth and normalcy than 3 years of expensive therapists managed, Michael said. I may not know every detail of your life, but I know your character. And Nathan? Does he know about this proposal? Not yet, but I'm sure he'll be thrilled. He told me you were the first person in a long time who treated him like a normal person. Emily smiled through her tears. Nathan is a normal person. He just happens to use a wheelchair. The simplicity of the statement struck Michael deeply. That was exactly what he needed to understand. So, do you accept? He asked. Can I think about it? Emily requested. It's a big change in my life. Of course, take all the time you need. When Michael got home that afternoon, Nathan was doing homework on the computer. How was your day? The boy asked. Interesting, Michael replied. Nathan, can I ask you something? Sure. If you could choose anything to do on weekends, what would it be? Nathan thought for a moment. You know what I miss most? He finally said. Having friends who don't pity me. At school, everyone's so careful with me, like I might break any second. And where do you think you could find friends like that? I don't know. Maybe somewhere where having a disability is just normal, Nathan suggested. Where people care more about having fun than being politically correct with me. Michael smiled. Without realizing it, Nathan had described exactly what Emily offered. Nathan, what if I told you I found a place like that? Really? The boy's eyes lit up. And what if I told you Emily works there? Nathan fell silent for a moment, processing the information. Dad, did you investigate her? He finally asked. Michael felt ashamed all over again. Yes, he admitted. And I found out she's even more special than we thought. What did you find out? Michael told him about the Institute, about Ethan, about Emily's volunteer work, and about his proposal. So you're not hiring her as an employee? Asked Nathan. No. I'll support her professionally and hope she becomes our friend. Nathan smiled widely. That's much better, Dad. Way cooler than having a fake employee. Why fake? Because if you pay someone to like me, I'll never know if it's real, explained Nathan with his peculiar wisdom. Once again, Michael was humbled by his son's insight. You're really smart, you know that? I know, said Nathan with a mischievous smile. I take after my dad. Father and son laughed together, and Michael felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time, genuine hope for the future. 3 days later, Emily called. Michael? She said hesitantly. It's me, Emily. Hi. Have you decided about our conversation? Yes, she replied. I accept the proposal, but with one condition. What is it? I want Nathan to be part of the program planning process. The kids and teens should have a say in what they want to do. Perfect, agreed Michael. When can we start? How about next Saturday? I can organize a trial session with some of the boys here for Nathan to meet. He'll love that. And Michael, said Emily before hanging up. Yes? Thank you for trusting me. I know it's not easy for you. Thank you for being worthy of that trust, he replied sincerely. The following Saturday, Michael took Nathan to the Ethan Henry Institute. The boy was visibly nervous but excited. What if they don't like me? He asked in the car. Nathan, you're 15 and worry about math problems, video games, and whether girls think you're cool, said Michael. The boys in there have the same concerns. The wheelchair is just a detail. How do you know about girl? Asked Nathan, surprised. Son, I was a teenager once too, laughed Michael. And I bet Emily will have some volunteers your age who'll find you very interesting. Nathan blushed but smiled. At the Institute, Emily greeted them with a group of 6 teenagers. There was Tyler, the boy with Down syndrome Michael had seen playing guitar. Madison, a cheerful girl in a motorized wheelchair. Joshua, a boy with an amputated leg who used a prosthetic. Rachel, a blind girl with an infectious smile. Connor, a shy but curious autistic boy. And Abigail, a girl with mild cerebral palsy who spoke with difficulty but had bright, intelligent eyes. Everyone, this is Nathan I told you about, said Emily. He's going to help us plan fun weekend activities. Hi, said Nathan shyly. That's a cool chair. exclaimed Madison. "Is it motorized?" "No, I still use a manual one," replied Nathan. "But I'm thinking of asking my dad for a motorized one." "Ask soon," advised Joshua. "The independence it gives is amazing." Michael noticed Nathan relaxed immediately. There was no pity in these young people's eyes, only genuine interest. "What do you all like to do for fun?" asked Nathan. "I love music," said Tyler. "Emily's teaching me guitar." "I play wheelchair basketball," said Madison proudly. "I want to teach everyone." "I do theater," said Rachel. "I always play characters who aren't blind in the plays. It's fun to break people's expectations." "I draw," said Connor quietly, "and like puzzles." "I write poetry," said Abigail, speaking slowly but clearly, "and love debating movies." Nathan listened to each one with genuine attention. "You know what would be cool," he said after a moment, "if we created a group that does all of it. Music, sports, theater, art, literature, like a multimedia club." "That's an amazing idea," exclaimed Emily. "We could meet every Saturday and focus on a different activity each week." "And we can invite our families to monthly presentations," suggested Madison. "And other schools to come see our work," added Rachel. Michael watched Nathan transform before his eyes. The boy was excited, engaged, a leader. It was the first time he'd seen his son take on a leadership role in a group. "Dad," Nathan said suddenly, "can I talk to you for a minute?" They stepped slightly away from the group. "What is it?" Michael asked. "I want our company to officially help fund this project," Nathan said seriously. "Not as charity, but as an investment in something that can grow and help many families." The maturity and vision in his son's words impressed Michael. "Are you sure this would mean you're committing to this project long-term?" "Dad, for the first time in years I've found my place," Nathan said. "These are my friends. This is my community. And Emily. She understands us in a way no one else does." Michael looked at the group of young people, chatting excitedly about ideas for the club, with Emily guiding the discussion. It was a scene of normalcy and joy he hadn't known was possible. "All right," Michael agreed. "Let's do this right. I'll talk to my lawyers about setting up a family foundation dedicated to inclusion projects." Nathan hugged his father so tightly he nearly knocked him off his chair. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. In the months that followed, what had begun as a test of character in a restaurant evolved into something much bigger. The Anderson-Ethan Foundation was officially established, with Emily as executive director and Nathan as a teen advisor. The club Nathan had envisioned grew to include 20 young people of different ages and abilities. They performed monthly for their families and had become a model for inclusion in the area. Emily left her job at the restaurant to dedicate herself fully to the institute, which now received substantial funding from the foundation. Her mother finally got her knee surgery and returned to work as a volunteer physical therapist at the institute itself. Michael realized his initial paranoia had given way to something unexpected, a real extended family. Emily wasn't an employee, a girlfriend, or a replacement for Nathan's mother. She was a genuine friend who had naturally found her place in their lives. The relationship between father and son had transformed too. Nathan gained confidence and independence, while Michael learned to balance protection with freedom. One Saturday afternoon, 6 months after that first dinner, Michael watched Nathan teach wheelchair basketball to a group of younger kids in the institute's gym. "He's amazing," Emily said, walking up with 2 cups of coffee. "He is," Michael agreed. "Sometimes I hardly recognize the shy boy from a few months ago." "He was always like this inside," Emily observed. "He just needed the right environment to express it." "And I needed to learn to trust the right people," Michael admitted. "You know what else has changed?" Emily asked. "What?" "You smile a lot more now. Nathan told me he hadn't seen you truly happy since his mother passed." Michael considered her words. It was true. Over the past months, he'd rediscovered the joy of living, not just surviving. "Emily," he said suddenly, "can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Do you ever regret spending so much time and energy taking care of others? Don't you feel like you're missing out on your own life? Emily smiled and pointed at Nathan, who was celebrating a difficult basket with his new friends. Michael, look at that, she said. Do you see the joy on those faces? The trust they're building? The future they're envisioning for themselves? I see. That's my life, she said simply. That's the life I chose when I lost Ethan. It's not a sacrifice when you love what you do. What about your personal life, relationships, your own family? Emily grew thoughtful for a moment. I haven't found the right person yet, she admitted. But I've learned that family can be formed in many different ways. You, the boys at the Institute, my mother. That's family too. A non-traditional family, Michael observed. The best family I've ever had, Emily agreed. Just then, Nathan approached them, sweaty and happy. Dad, Madison wants to know if you can give a talk on entrepreneurship for the teens at the Institute, he said. Entrepreneurship? Michael asked, surprised. Yeah, Nathan explained. She wants to open an online store selling t-shirts with Connor's designs, and Joshua wants to start a YouTube channel about adaptive sports. Michael looked at Emily, who smiled proudly. These kids are learning that having a disability doesn't mean having less ambition, she explained. Of course I can give the talk, Michael agreed. When do they want to do it? Next week, Nathan suggested. And Dad, can I talk about our company too? About how you built everything from scratch? The idea of Nathan taking an interest in the family business surprised and moved Michael. You want to learn about the company? I want to learn everything, Nathan said with determination. One day I'll run the foundation on my own and I want to be ready. His son's maturity and vision left Michael speechless. Nathan hadn't just found his purpose, he'd set clear goals to achieve it. We'll work on this together, Michael promised. That night at home, father and son had dinner together, as they had every night since Emily entered their lives. But now their conversations were different, filled with plans, dreams, and stories from the Institute. Dad, Nathan said suddenly, can I tell you a secret? Of course. That first night at the restaurant, I knew you were testing Emily, Nathan admitted. How did you know? Because you make the same face when you're analyzing business proposals, Nathan laughed. You get that poker expression, watching every detail. Michael felt exposed once again. And what did you think of the test? I thought it was unnecessary, Nathan said honestly. Anyone who spends 5 minutes with Emily can see she's genuine. Then why didn't you say anything? Because I knew you needed to figure it out yourself, Nathan explained. If I'd spoken up, you'd have thought I was being naive. His son's emotional wisdom kept surprising Michael. Nathan, when did you become so mature? I think I always was, the boy replied. I just didn't have the space to show it. You protected me so much that I never had a chance to grow. The observation was a soft but precise blow. And now I feel like I can be myself, Nathan said, and that you trust me to make decisions about my own life. I do, Michael said sincerely, more than I ever thought possible. Dad, can I ask you a hard question? Go ahead. Do you think Mom would approve of Emily? The question caught Michael off guard. He thought of Sarah, her natural generosity, how she always saw the best in people. I think your mother would have loved Emily, he said finally. And I think she'd be proud to see how you've become such a strong, compassionate person. I miss her every day, Nathan admitted. Me too, Michael said. But I've learned that honoring her memory means living the way she'd want us to, with openness, trust, and love. Nathan reminds me of her sometimes, said Nathan quietly. In what way? In how she sees potential in people instead of limitations, Nathan explained. Mom always said I could be anything I wanted. Nathan says the same thing, but differently. How so? Mom said it because she loved me unconditionally, Nathan said. Nathan says it because she truly believes it. It's different, but both kinds of support matter. The depth of his son's insight left Michael emotional. Nathan, you know how proud I am of you, right? I do, Nathan smiled. And now I'm proud of myself too. That was perhaps the most important conversation father and son had shared since Sarah's passing. Not just because it resolved past struggles, but because it paved the way for a future built on mutual respect and trust. A few weeks later, the Institute hosted its first talent and entrepreneurship fair. Each young person presented a personal project to an audience of family and community members. Nathan had prepared a presentation on digital accessibility, demonstrating how websites and apps could be more inclusive. Madison officially launched her online t-shirt store. Joshua debuted his YouTube channel. Rachel directed a play where all the main characters were portrayed by young people with disabilities. Michael watched it all with a mix of pride and awe. In less than a year, these young people had transformed from rehabilitation program participants into confident entrepreneurs and artists. "Amazing, isn't it?" said Emily, joining him in the audience. "It's surreal," Michael agreed. "How did you pull this off?" "I didn't," she said. "I just created the space for them to shine. The talent was always there." "Emily," Michael said suddenly, "there's something I need to tell you." "What is it?" "That first dinner changed my life just as much as it changed Nathan's." "How so?" "You taught me that real protection isn't keeping people at a distance," Michael explained. "It's creating an environment where they can grow and thrive safely. And you've applied that with Nathan." "I've applied it to myself too," Michael admitted. "I learned to trust again, in people, in situations, in the future." Emily smiled. "You know what I've learned from both of you?" "What?" "That healing isn't something you do alone," she said. "It happens in community, when the right people meet at the right time." "Healing?" Michael asked, unfamiliar with the English word. "Recovery," Emily translated. "We were all wounded in some way. You by the loss of your wife, Nathan by overprotection, me by losing Ethan. But together, we found a way to heal." Emily's words struck Michael deeply. She was right. They had healed each other, each offering exactly what the other needed. At the fair's closing, Nathan took the stage for final remarks. "I want to thank everyone here today," he said into the microphone, with a confidence Michael had never seen before. "A year ago, I was a boy hiding behind my wheelchair and my dad's worries." The audience chuckled warmly. "Today, I'm a teenager who happens to use a wheelchair and has a dad who's my biggest partner," Nathan continued. "The difference? I found my community. I found people who see possibilities, not limits." Michael felt his eyes well up. "Most of all, I want to thank Emily," Nathan said, looking right at her, "who taught us that family is defined by love and commitment, not biology. And my dad, who had the courage to trust when every instinct told him not to." The audience rose in applause. Michael was so moved he could barely stand. After everyone had left, Michael, Nathan, and Emily remained alone at the Institute, arranging chairs and cleaning up the remnants of the party. "Nathan," Emily said suddenly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "That first night at the restaurant, you knew I was being tested. Why weren't you embarrassed or angry?" Nathan thought for a moment before answering. "Because I realized you weren't participating in the test," he said. "You were just being yourself, and I wanted my father to see who you really were. And if I had failed the test, then my father would have missed the chance to meet one of the most incredible people in the world," Nathan replied simply. Emily was touched by his answer. "Thank you for believing in me," she said. "Thank you for being worthy of that belief," Nathan responded, echoing the words his father had spoken months earlier. Michael watched the exchange between his son and Emily with deep gratitude, not just for having found Emily, but for learning to see through his son's eyes. "Everyone," he said suddenly, "I have a proposal." "What is it?" Nathan and Emily asked in unison. "How about we make this an annual tradition, a fair where the young people at the Institute can showcase their projects and the community can support their initiatives?" "I'd love that," Emily said immediately. "And we could expand it," Nathan suggested. "Invite youth from other institutes, create a bigger support network." "You two have a business mind," Michael laughed. "How about we draft a 5-year plan for this idea?" And so, what had begun as a test of distrust in an upscale restaurant evolved into a movement that would change the lives of dozens of families. Months later, Michael was in his office when he received an unexpected call. "Hello?" he answered. "Mr. Anderson, this is Jennifer Miller from Forbes magazine. We're doing a feature on business leaders who use their influence for innovative social projects. We'd like to interview you about the Anderson-Ethan Foundation. Michael smiled. The foundation had gained recognition not just for its work, but for its innovative approach of putting the beneficiaries themselves at the forefront of the projects. Of course, he agreed, but I'd like the interview to take place at the Institute, with Emily Wilson, our executive director, and Nathan, my son and teen advisor, present. Perfect, said the journalist. Would next Thursday work? I'll confirm with them and get back to you. When Michael told Nathan and Emily about the interview, they were excited but nervous. I've never given a magazine interview before, Emily admitted. Me neither, said Nathan. What if I say something stupid? You'll speak from the heart, Michael reassured them. That's what makes our work special. On the day of the interview, the journalist arrived with a photographer. She was a middle-aged woman, professional yet warm. It's a pleasure to meet you all, she said. Rarely do I see social projects where the beneficiaries are as much the protagonists as the funders. The interview took place in the Institute's activity room, with some of the youth working in the background. Jennifer asked thoughtful questions about the foundation's origins, goals, and results. Mr. Anderson, she asked at one point, what motivated you to create this foundation? Truthfully, it was my son who inspired me, Michael answered, glancing at Nathan. He taught me that true inclusion happens when we create opportunities for people to shine, not when we treat them as charity cases. Nathan, the journalist turned to the boy, what's it like being a foundation advisor at 15? It's amazing, Nathan replied with confidence, but it's also a great responsibility. I have to represent not just myself, but all the young people who go through similar situations. And what's the biggest change you've noticed in yourself since the foundation started? I've learned that my wheelchair doesn't define me, said Nathan thoughtfully. I define myself, and I can choose to be someone who makes a difference in others' lives. Jennifer turned to Emily. Emily, you left a stable job at a restaurant to run this foundation. Was it a hard decision to make? It was the easiest decision of my life, Emily replied without hesitation. When you find your purpose, it's not really a choice. It's a calling. And what's the biggest challenge in your work? Fighting the low self-esteem many young people carry when they arrive here, Emily explained. Society teaches them they're limited. My job is to show them they're limitless. Do you have expansion plans? We do, Michael replied. We want to create a national network of partner institutes, all following the philosophy of youth leadership. And how do you measure the success of your work? By dreams, Nathan suddenly said, surprising everyone. When the kids first come here, they don't have dreams. When they leave, they have life plans. Nathan's answer was so poetic and true that Jennifer seemed moved. That'll be the opening line of my article, she said. After the interview, while the photographer took pictures, Jennifer pulled Michael aside. Can I ask you a personal question? Of course. How did you raise such a mature and articulate son? Nathan doesn't sound like a typical teenager. Nathan faced many challenges that forced him to grow up faster, Michael explained. But what truly shaped his maturity was finding his purpose. When a person knows what they're meant for, they naturally grow into it. And Emily, how did you find her? Michael smiled, remembering that first dinner. Actually, it was a coincidence that turned into fate, he said. Sometimes the best things in life happen when we stop searching and let them find us. The article was published 3 weeks later under the title, When Dreams Measure Success, The Silent Revolution of the Anderson-Ethan Foundation. The cover photo showed Nathan, Michael, and Emily smiling amid a group of young people, all holding signs with their personal projects. The impact was immediate. Dozens of business leaders and organizations reached out, interested in replicating the model. Families from across the country wrote asking for guidance on creating similar opportunities in their cities. I didn't expect this response, Emily admitted, looking at the pile of emails on the foundation's computer. Neither did I, Michael said. I think we underestimated how much people were waiting for a different approach. Dad, Nathan said, entering the room with a paper in hand. We got a very special letter. From whom? From a 12-year-old girl in Boston, Nathan explained. She has spina bifida and wants to open an institute like ours in her city. Michael read the letter and was moved. The girl named Olivia wrote with striking maturity about her dreams of helping other children with disabilities. "What do you think about inviting her to spend a week here?" Michael suggested. "She could learn about our model and take the ideas back to Boston." "I'd love to meet her," Nathan said immediately. "We could create an exchange program," Emily suggested. "Young leaders from different regions coming here to learn and then implementing projects in their cities." "You never stop dreaming big, do you?" Michael laughed. "We learn from the best," Nathan said, winking at his father. "Actually, you learned from each other," Michael corrected. "I just provided the resources." "Dad," Nathan said seriously, "can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you regret taking that test at the restaurant?" The question caught Michael Anderson off guard. He thought for a moment before answering. "I don't regret it," he finally said. "Not because it was the right thing to do, but because it led me to the two of you. Sometimes we make mistakes that take us to the right places." "But what if Emily had failed the test?" Nathan pressed. "Then I would have missed the chance to meet one of the most important people in my life," Michael admitted. "And you would have lost your best friend and mentor." "Mentor? No," Emily corrected. "Partner. Nathan teaches me as much as I teach him." "It's true," Nathan agreed. "Emily, you changed my life. But did I change yours too?" "Completely," she answered without hesitation. "You showed me that honoring Ethan's memory means helping other boys achieve the dreams he couldn't." "And Dad, did I change your life?" "Nathan, you saved my life," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. "After your mom died, I was just surviving. You taught me how to live again." "How?" "By forcing me to trust, pushing me out of my comfort zone, showing me that real love means supporting people's dreams, not shielding them from their fears." The trio fell silent for a moment, each reflecting on how deeply they'd transformed one another. "You know what I'm proudest of?" Emily said suddenly. "What?" father and son asked together. "That we built something bigger than any of us alone," she said. "This foundation, this institute, this family we've made, it'll outlast us all." "It's true," Michael agreed. "Even if something happens to me, I know you two will carry this forward." "Nothing's going to happen to you, Dad," Nathan said firmly. "But if it does, I promise I'll honor everything we built together." "And I promise to look after him like he's my own brother," Emily added. In that moment, Michael understood completely what they'd created. Not just a foundation or an institute, but a real family, forged by choice, commitment, and unconditional love. Months later, at the Foundation's 2-year anniversary, they held a grand celebration. Over 100 youth from partner institutes attended, along with their families and supporters. Nathan, now 16, had become a respected speaker in social inclusion circles. Emily had been recognized as one of the country's most influential young social leaders. Michael had learned to balance his business with his philanthropy, finding purpose in both. During the opening speech, Nathan took the stage with more confidence than Michael ever thought possible. "2 years ago," Nathan began, "my dad took me to dinner at a fancy restaurant. He thought he was testing an employee to see if she was fit to care for me." The crowd laughed, familiar with the now legendary story. "But really," Nathan continued, "how we were the ones being tested. Life was testing whether we deserved Emily in our lives, whether we were ready to grow, to trust, and to love without fear." Michael felt tears well up again. "Today, looking at this room full of dreamers, achievers, and fighters, I can say we passed that test," Nathan declared. "And the reward was discovering that family isn't defined by blood, but by choice. It isn't limited by circumstances. It's expanded by love." The audience rose in a standing ovation. Michael glanced at Emily and saw her wiping away tears. "My dad always says that dinner changed our lives," Nathan concluded. "I say it revealed who we always were deep down, a family waiting to find each other." When Nathan came down from the stage, Michael hugged him tightly. "I'm proud of you," he said. "I'm proud of us," Nathan corrected. Emily joined the embrace, and the three stayed like that for a long moment, in the middle of the celebration, surrounded by all the lives they had touched and that had touched them in return. That night, after everyone had left, they were alone at the Institute, as they always were after big events. "Do you think we've reached where we wanted to go?" Emily asked. I think we've reached a place we didn't even know we wanted, Michael replied. And that's the best kind of destination. You know what I'm most afraid of, Nathan admitted. What? The other two asked. That one day we'll get used to this and stop seeing how miraculous it is, the boy said. I promise I won't let that happen, Emily said. Neither will I, Michael agreed. Then let's make a pact, Nathan suggested. Every year on the Foundation's anniversary, we'll remember that first dinner and how we got here. Deal, Emily and Michael said together. And so, what had begun as a test of distrust became the foundation of a family tradition that would last generations. 3 years later, Nathan was about to turn 18 and had been accepted to university with a full scholarship to study social administration. Emily had become a national leader in inclusion and received invitations to speak across the country. Michael had discovered that success in business was far more satisfying when it had a clear social purpose. On the eve of Nathan's birthday, the three were dining at the same restaurant where it all began. Hope Bistro had become fully accessible and served as a model for other establishments. Do you remember the first time we came here? Nathan asked. How could we forget? Emily laughed. I was so nervous. I knew I was being evaluated, but I didn't quite understand for what. And I was convinced you were too good to be true, Michael admitted. Funny, Nathan said thoughtfully. That night, I was sure you were the right person for our family, Emily, but I never imagined you'd also be the right person to change how I saw myself. How so? She asked. You were the first person who saw me as I really was, Nathan explained. Not as the boy in the wheelchair, not as the motherless orphan, not as the heir to a fortune, just as Nathan. And how are you? Michael asked, genuinely curious about how his son saw himself. I'm someone who wants to use my life experience to help others discover their potential, Nathan replied without hesitation. I'm someone who believes differences make the world more interesting, not harder. And I'm someone lucky to be part of a family that lets me be all of that. Emily and Michael exchanged emotional glances. Nathan, Emily said, when you go to university, will you miss us? A lot, he admitted. But I won't be far. I plan to intern at the Foundation every summer and keep working on projects remotely. And after university? Michael asked. I want to expand our model to other countries, Nathan said with clear ambition. I want young people with disabilities worldwide to have the opportunities I've had. Our boys become a visionary, Emily teased. Learn from the best, Nathan replied. At the end of dinner, as they prepared to leave, the restaurant's current manager approached them. Sorry to interrupt, he said, but I wanted to thank you personally. Thank us for what? Michael asked. For inspiring us to make the accessibility changes, explained the manager. Since we implemented all the modifications, our customer traffic has increased by 30%. We've discovered that creating an inclusive environment isn't just the right thing to do. It's also good for business. I'm happy to hear that, said Emily. But what stands out to me the most, the manager continued, is seeing how the three of you have transformed over these years. The first time you came here, the tension was palpable. Now you radiate happiness. The manager's observation confirmed what they already knew, but it was good to hear from an outside perspective. In the car on the way home, Nathan asked a question that surprised the other two. Do you think we'd still be a family if circumstances had been different? Different how? Asked Emily. If I didn't use a wheelchair, if Dad wasn't wealthy, if you hadn't lost Ethan, Nathan specified. The question was deep and complex. I think we would have found each other no matter what, Emily said after a moment of thought. Maybe in a different way, but we would have found each other. People who are meant to be together always do. I agree, said Michael. Our circumstances brought us together, but our choice to stay together goes beyond those circumstances. That's true, Nathan agreed, because family isn't about needing each other. It's about choosing each other every single day. That conversation became one of the most important they'd ever had, because it crystallized their understanding that what they'd built was genuine and lasting. On Nathan's birthday, the celebration was held at the Institute, as had become tradition. Over 200 people were there, youth from the institute, families, staff, partners, and friends. During the toast, Nathan asked to speak. "Traditionally, birthdays are about celebrating another year of life," he said. "But today I want to celebrate another year of purpose." The audience listened intently. 5 years ago, I was a boy who hid behind my disability and my father's overprotectiveness, Nathan continued. Today, I'm a man who uses my experience to empower others. The difference? I found my tribe. He gestured toward Michael and Emily. I found a father who learned that to love is to trust, a mentor who taught me that serving others is the purest way to honor our own gifts, and an extended family, he motioned to the entire room, who showed me that belonging is a right, not a privilege. Nathan's words echoed in the emotional silence of the room. "So, my birthday wish isn't for me," he declared. "It's for every person here to leave knowing they have the power to change someone's life, just like you changed mine." The applause was spontaneous and long-lasting. Michael had to step away for a moment to compose himself. When Emily found him in the hallway, she was also emotional. "He's become everything I dreamed Ethan could have been," she said through tears. "And you've become the sister Nathan never had," Michael replied. "We're lucky," said Emily. "We're blessed," Michael corrected. That night, after the party, the three of them sat in the Institute's garden under the stars. "Do you remember your biggest fears 5 years ago?" Nathan asked. "My biggest fear was that you'd become too dependent on me," Michael admitted. "My biggest fear was that I'd never move past losing Ethan," said Emily. "My biggest fear was that I'd never be normal," said Nathan. "And today?" Emily asked. "Today, my biggest fear is that the two of you don't realize how extraordinary you are," said Michael. "Today, my biggest fear is that the world isn't ready for everything Nathan has to offer," said Emily. "Today, my greatest fear is that one day we'll forget to be grateful for all of this," said Nathan. "So our fears have evolved," observed Michael. "From fears about ourselves to fears about how to care for one another," agreed Emily. "That's growth," Nathan said wisely. "That's family," Michael corrected. End of story. Now tell me what you thought of this story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave your sincere words in the comments. Do you believe Michael did the right thing by testing Emily? We're eager to read your opinion. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to leave a like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartfelt stories.